We are live. What's going on, Jennifer?
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am good. My brain's been kind of on fire this morning, so it should be a fun show.
We're going to need some firefighters. Well, you know what? Just so you know, we got some people out there. We got the NoBS Tribe. Mr. Buddy Brumley says, come on, baby, let's get started.
Yeah.
We started. We're on time.
Yes.
We got Shabam says, a second on that, Thomas. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Yes.
And then we got the
Felipe's on. He's up early this morning.
Good morning, Felipe. What's going on, Big Daddy? Man, look at this. We got Miss Amy Olmedo. Good morning, Amy. She's back from Hawaii.
Nice.
That was a pretty. She had some pretty insightful stuff that she was posting.
She had some beautiful posts, like beautiful just imagery and pictures and stuff.
Yes. So, man, it's another Saturday. It feels like I just blinked my eyes and damn, 2 weeks have gone by.
Absolutely.
So today we got kind of a, I don't know if it's heavy, but we got a serious topic that we're going to be talking about.
Yes.
Brought to us by Mr. Thomas Lamay. That it came up in the after party 2 weeks ago, and I kept messing it up, but it's Self Injurious Behavior.
Yes.
And so that's kind of a, I don't know, it's fancy words, but I think I get it. I think I may be an expert at some of that.
I think we're going to talk about that today.
Are we? Man, I was hoping. Well, you know what? I'm super excited because Adam is spending time with his family. So I'm going to be managing the chat today, which
means nothing. That does not give you any pass. It doesn't give you any no, not at all. You're gonna have to talk. You just may not be able to pull the comments up as fast as you want.
Oh man. So folks, while y'all are out there in Facebook land and YouTube land, on LinkedIn, let us know you're there, because it really makes us feel good. And actually, we don't know if you're there or not unless you comment.
Yes.
So of course, we're going to give you some shout outs. So Good morning to y'all. Let us know what makes you smile, where you're coming in from. Mr. Justin, he's on a streak now. What's going on, Justin?
Welcome, Justin.
Coming in from Charlotte. I'm gonna be up that way next week.
Not next week. It's at the end of the week, right? Okay.
No, I'm going next week.
I thought you were in Dallas.
Monday, I'm flying into
You're not in
South Carolina, somewhere in there.
I thought you were in Dallas next week.
On Friday, Thursday and Friday. And then I'm in Oklahoma on the weekend.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
You know what? You got to talk to my publicist.
I mean, I think I travel a lot, and then you're all over the place. Okay.
Oh, we got Mr. Jim Gatorius. He's coming in from D-Town, Dallas.
Back patio.
On the patio, with the earbuds on, probably hiding. I'm joking, Jim. Dr. M, he's coming in from Mumbai. It's like dinner time over there.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So now we know who Shabam is.
Okay.
He's come from Clemson.
Oh, nice. We're going to be up there at the beginning of September.
Yes, we are. So look, hopefully you're going to be at the Next Gen Builders event in Clemson.
Yes.
That'll be fun. So we got a LinkedIn user here. Who is LinkedIn user? No idea, but it's good morning. Oh, that's Monica Melendez. All right.
Oh, okay. Monica. I know Monica. Thank you, Monica, for being here. She usually shows up, so I don't know why she's doing her stuff is.
I don't know. I've heard that, if you haven't bought the book, it's going to automatically block you. I'm joking. And then we got Christine Fuentes. And I know that because I'm cheating. I'm looking at my phone here.
Yes, no, that's good.
Christine, how you doing, sister? Oh, my God. We got a bunch of people. Cindy Becerra, hello again. How are you? Man, it's going to be. Oh. Look at that. Jim says no.
That means the wife is listening.
Watch out. Dr. M says Jesse is a disaster. No, I don't think that's what he meant, but I'm going to go with it. And then our buddy Will, Wednesdays with Will.
Yep.
I mean, really, that he's doing a ton out there to spread joy,
kindness,
and kindness.
Yes.
Y'all really do need to connect with Will and follow him, because man, he got the most positive stuff.
And Cindy, she's not on here. We may get her here, but she's not. But Cindy Cohn has a book out. Let me find my paper. called More Joy.
More
So
joy.
yes, and she sends so much brightness and joy and light out there. So if you're not following her, you need to find her because she's amazing. Anyway.
Agreed. Well, so there's another person here that's got a book out.
Yes, Felipe.
Yup. He says the cup of coffee makes him smile. So does mine, Felipe.
So does mine.
Yeah. Love the smiles. And look at this. We got Miss Maya, who was like dropping. She was swinging hard on the pop-up.
She was. And I get to have dinner. I'm having dinner with her in a couple weeks. So, or actually, week after next. Yeah, how about that?
I don't want to see no pictures because you just make me jealous when y'all do that. Y'all, everybody out there taking pictures without me. And then we got Mr. Terry Proffer. He says, howdy from North Richland Hills. And got the book. Thank you,
what book
Terry.
is he, what book is he talking about?
I don't know. My guess is it looks something like this.
That one? What?
Yo. Oh, thank you, Terry, for going out of your way to make that investment, my friend. And Will says,
Will's
hey,
tagging her. He's like, get in here. Come on.
Yeah, we need to get her in here. Come on, girl. We gotta hang out.
You, Will. Thank you.
So like this, let's keep this going. It's just too much fun.
Yes.
I'm gonna change the banner. So if you're coming in again, let us know you're there. Give us your comment. Like this subject's a little. We're gonna need some help. I'm gonna need some help.
I'm gonna need some help.
Because Jen and I were like prepping. It's like, man, self-injurious behavior. This thing could turn into a big giant, just a big giant hairball. Now, I will say this. I did have a little bit of, you know how meticulously I plan, right, Jen? So I had my check-in with my therapist this week, and she's amazing. So this is a plug for Miss Danielle. Like, y'all know how jacked up I am. And I was way more jacked up before I started working with her. And so I'm proof that she could do like some magical stuff with really hard-headed people. Anyhow, in our conversation, I was like, hey, we're going to be doing the live stream, and several people have asked for like resources. Do you have anything we can share? And she's like, yes, absolutely. So she sent me a few links. We'll be posting them later on in the show for some like anger webinar group thingies, anxiety stuff. And they're going to be producing more stuff. So we'll be putting that out there for you to take access, or for you to access it so that you can handle some of your own stuff, or you can recommend to somebody that is suffering or dealing with similar problems. And so the question that we'd like for y'all to contribute to is, what does self-injurious behavior mean to you? So we'll start with you, Jennifer Lacey.
Okay, I'm going to take this one, but then it's coming right back at you. So Thomas brought this up in a conversation. And again, we had we dug in a little bit, and it kind of helped us, you and I kind of start thinking about how the value of really bringing this to a bigger audience. But self-injurious behavior, when I think about that, the big word in there is injurious. And when we think of injury and injurious, that's harm. And so harm, sometimes we kind of let that be a gray area of like, is it really hurting? Is it really going to be that big a deal? And so for me, self-injurious behavior is when we are making a decision, a conscious decision to allow harm to ourselves. And that can come in a lot of different ways. And we're going to talk about some of those today, but that is what it means to me.
Okay. Well, so just for clarification, what I heard is what it means to you is like it's a deliberate decision that is self-harming.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. For me, it's just the behaviors or the actions that are resulted from the decisions I make or don't make. I don't know if you don't make decisions ever, right? Because not deciding is a decision. But anyways, I'll say it like this. When I started working with Danielle, what we were evaluating, or what people see, what has the biggest impact on the outcomes that I'm experiencing are my behaviors. And so the behaviors are that surface problem that need or call for attention. And once we like understand the behavior, then we can examine, for me anyways, examine the thinking that is contributing to the behavior, which is generating the unhealthy outcomes.
Bad decisions.
Bad decisions, no relationships, self-isolation, like all of that stuff. That's where I'm at on the topic. And I'm wondering what the tribe out there, we got some people coming in. Thomas Lamay says, morning. Thank you for talking about SIB. And Thomas, please weigh in on this, because I know you got a lot of value to add around this subject. So we're counting on you, big dog. And then we got Miss Z. She says, good morning. Well, good morning to you, Miss
Yes,
Z.
good morning. Welcome.
I think it's the first time I've seen her name.
I know. I haven't. She's not. We like when people jump in and actually talk so we can know who's out there.
Yes. Thank you, Z. Oh, look at this. We got some love going on. Kirby Coates says, book. There's a book. Would there be a study action team starting soon to dig into that book? Is it? Have you heard anything about that, Jen?
I think so. I think we just finalized that this week, that the San Antonio LCI COP and the DFW LCI COP are going to actually do a joint study action team on our book.
Oh, that's fun. Ooh, I guess I need to show up. Huh? I should put on my calendar. Anson Green, what's going on, Anson? Great to see you too. Likewise, Anson. Man, Anson's out there doing amazing things. And our buddy Ian says, good morning. Yep. What's up, Ian Smith? And I still need to connect with you next time I'm in Dallas. I'll be there a couple times this month, so definitely hooking up. And then lastly, Dominic says, good morning. He made our book an international book. Like, thank you. There's still so much happening it's like super, super crazy. But it's awesome. Look, we got a wow. Congrats, y'all. From LinkedIn user. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So, okay. Enough of me patting myself on the back.
Okay. So I'm going to start this and throw it at you, because you threw the first one at me. So I get to do this. So, so Jesse, you and I started, I'm going to say about a year ago, you and I started this live streaming thing. And it started with the 5S in personal relationships, and then it turned into NoBS. So, that's kind of been our last year. So about a year ago, we got on and decided to share and talk through some stuff that ended up being the book. And there's a lot of examples in there, Jesse, of some self-injurious behavior decisions and choices and things that happen that are talked about in the book. And some of them you've talked about since then. So can you maybe just talk through an example or two of where you have made some of those decisions and the impact that it had?
No, you got to buy the book.
I'm talking about the stuff, not all the stuff in the book, because you left some stuff out.
I'm joking. Yes, I will talk about that. And I was listening to, I can't remember who it was, but it's one of those influencers that posts stuff on the socials. And what he said something like, when you have a big win and then go out and celebrate and get smashed and get hammered, that's a problem. And it could be an indicator that you don't believe that you deserve the win you just had. Because enormous win, milestone, life event, and then I'm going to go do something that is abusive to my body. So maybe subconsciously there's some self-doubt around what that is. And because of that, I'm doing this thing. And so I was like, oh man, I think there's something there. And so for me, where my brain went immediately was, I used to always say, I work hard and I party harder. And like I did. But the partying, it did not serve me long term. What the partying did was deteriorate my health. It deteriorated my wellness, deteriorated my relationships. And the partying was a combination of no sleeping, poor nutrition, um, one night stands, consumption of substances, right, into my body. And all of these things, I'm telling myself, well, I'm celebrating. But so maybe maybe there was some celebration going along with like all up in that, but it didn't serve me. Right. And so it was this weird thing. And I think there's a social acceptance for that sort of behavior. And let me be clear, I'm not casting judgment on anybody. I am talking about me. And so I know that when I went out to drink, like it was never a couple. And if you went out and drank with me and you saw me like just have a couple and leave, I went somewhere else to continue consuming. Right? Like that's what it was. And so that self-injurious behavior, like the behavior was the consumption of these things, of me not taking care of myself, not sleeping, not eating, not exercising, just doing all these things. The result of which was bad. Like it was really bad on my psyche, and really more importantly, on the relationships that I had with everybody around me at work, at home. And like it was almost like, not almost, I think the people around me suffered more than I was suffering. Now, for me, so here's the thing, and I'm going to kick it back to you eventually, is that punishment, it was a form of punishment. Like I know now that stuff that I was doing was a form of me punishing myself for not being good enough, for not, whatever it was I achieved, it still wasn't the pinnacle or the target, because I have these really outrageous self-imposed expectations. And because I didn't achieve them, I'm still combating the whole, all of that, right? Like I'm still wrestling with that. So it was kind of like I was punishing myself the slowest way possible, killing myself the most miserable way I could kill myself, because I was not content with who I was and how I was showing up. What do you think about that, Jen?
I think you like hit a couple of things, and so I'm going to try to focus on just one of them. What you said is you were slowly doing it. Like it was happening and it was conscious, but it was slowly doing it. And I think sometimes we forget that, like, we talk about self-injurious behavior, and behaviors in there. So it's not just I went and made a really bad decision. It was, we're continually making these little decisions that are building into creating something that is a norm. And you and I have talked about that and some of the things that you've done. And I mean, great tie to, on this show, we've talked a lot about suicide in our industry, and how that is a culmination. That's an issue. It's something that, we're trying to tackle, and the industry's trying to tackle it. But that final decision, that injurious decision, didn't just somebody wake up and go, today's going to be that day. Like there are small things that happen, those incremental things that happen that lead to where that is the choice that they feel they have to make. And like all these things that happen that go into that is that behavior that we're slowly making things. And it's like not a big deal because it's just this one time, or it's just going to be here. And then it becomes the norm. And then when that's the norm, like, what do you do? What do you do when the norm is you are continually making bad decisions and hurting yourself, and huge, and you said it, all the people around you are feeling it and having to kind of navigate around it. I mean, like that's I hate to say it, but that happens a lot in our industry.
Yes, totally. And so Amy Olmedo shares medicating low self-esteem, right? Like just think about that. The low self-esteem, and for real, I know for the longest time, I've had extremely low self-esteem. Now, I have a high, maybe I had a low self-image and high self-esteem. Like I don't see myself in the highest light, like the things that I do. But I do have some confidence, and so it can confuse people. It's more like a defense mechanism, where I can keep people at bay and they think, oh, that dude's cool. Like he's fun and crazy and funny and all the stuff. But really it was my way of making sure, like, cementing in my wish to suffer alone. And so I guess what I would recommend is check on your people, right? They are, if it was me, if you were connected to me 5-10 years ago, I know it would have been hard. It would have been very difficult, but there was something wrong. There were things that I was wrestling with. And so there was a lot of people along the way that they made those attempts, and I'll never forget them. They were important. They kept me going, even though I may not have invited them in. Those attempts, those indications that somebody cared and actually could see, that was healing. It was therapeutic. And then on the other end, if you are like medicating your self-esteem, find some people that you can trust, the people that are there all the time. And sometimes they're not patting you on the back. Sometimes they're calling you out.
And they're having very hard, crucial conversations.
Yes. And let those people in just a little bit at a time, because you don't have to be suffering alone. And so I'm going to go to the chat, because we got some good stuff coming in.
Okay.
Kirby says her seemingly, we
talked about this morning. You and I did. Oh, when you make a decision like that. Yes.
Well, so what are you talking about? I don't really remember.
No, so this is also, I'm going to read it. It says, Kirby says, my seemingly not harmful behavior is staying up late. And my point when I was talking to Jesse this morning is, we always, like, we talk about self-injurious behaviors. I'm making a bad decision. So I'm making a bad choice to do something that is going to harm me. And this morning we talked about, sometimes we make the choice and it's harmful. And like, but we also cannot make a choice and it be harmful. And so the example is, I get up and I walk every morning, and that's it. It's huge. It's health-wise, mental health. There's a lot of things that helps me to get up and get moving. And sometimes it's really early to make sure that I'm back so that my kids can get ready for school. And this morning was going to get up and walk, and my alarm went off, and I'm like, I am exhausted. And so getting up, making a decision to get dressed and go and walk before the live stream, like, why would that be a bad decision? It's healthy. I'm walking. It's going to give me time to think. Like, that seems like a positive thing. But by making that decision, it could be harmful for me because I needed to get some rest. And so I think we get caught up, and that's what Kirby's point kind of made. Sometimes we don't think of it as a harmful behavior because the choice is something. She could have been staying up, getting extra work done. She could have been doing something that, there's positive benefits coming from it. And so we think, oh, it's okay. It's the right decision, but it still can bring harm to us. And I don't think sometimes we think about it in those terms.
No, I think, Amy, I love the arrangement of these words. Objectively successful and emotionally torn. Is that not like poetic?
Yes.
Because we get caught up in these things, or I keep saying I get caught up in these things, in achieving. Like, I guess for me, I've said it, and I mean it 100%. When I shifted my focus from achievement to contribution, all of a sudden, everything, like the most important things, became extremely clear and continue to become clear. It was that pursuit of achievement that got me all caught up in, I spent tons and tons and tons of hours and sacrificed really special things for the sake of achieving something. And guess what? I got those things. And I felt like Scarface, like, is this it? Is this what I've been working for? Like, it was just not what I was looking for. So another thing I want to point out to the tribe out there that's listening or catching up is we're fixing to share what people feel as, or what they identify self-injurious behavior to mean. And this is a big, gigantic thing because these are topics that we normally don't share. I'm going to just go out on a limb here and say what we're fixing to read. They've never shared with anybody before, and they're out here sharing it with this community. So please share. A, B, thank you for your vulnerability and trust in us with this, because this is a serious thing, and we need to help heal our industry. And I think these types of actions are doing exactly that. So I'm gonna go to Mr. Felipe. Felipe says self-injurious behavior for him means listening to the little quiet thoughts of doubt that lead to inaction. And action for him causes the most injury. Taking action is his antidote. What do you think about taking action, Jennifer?
Well, you're going to throw this at me. I'm going to throw it right back at you, because a lot of our conversations are that, a lot of talk, a lot of ideas. And what is that idea to action? What is that? What's that space? And we joke about it a lot, but we get to action really quick. You and I do, because you don't have any time to deal with anything else. And so when I have to delay that idea to action a little bit, like you're pulling out your hair. So what does that mean to you, Jesse?
Well, I think that's man. Yeah, this is a big one. So my default mode is idea to action. I get an idea. If I'm calling or texting you, it's usually because I just had the thought, man, I need to call or check in on somebody, and I will. The opposite of that is what, if you've read, what's the name of the darn book? Leadership and Self-Deception. Mm-hmm. There's this concept of self-betrayal. Mm-hmm. And so these ideas of me wanting to connect with another human being, that's an easy thing to do. Historically, what I would have done is not act on it. I would suppress that and then stay in this gray, foggy space or on my achievement track. Mm-hmm. But to act on that is important to me because I stay connected, right? It helps me maintain my humanity, if you will. Now, that sounds really nice, but you and I've been working together for a year. Idea to action, like we got an idea. Okay, what are we going to do with it? What's the next step? Small step. Like we don't have to make it glorious yet, but let's make that damn thing happen, which is disruptive and a little crazy and wild. So the question then is, where does it come from?
Right.
Where does my behavior to jump from idea to action come from? And it comes from trauma, right? Like when I was young, was a little kid, I had some family members that suffered serious abuse that I was a witness to. And for extremely long periods of time, I didn't do anything about it. I hid from it. I was a kid, right? I get it. I was a kid, and that's okay. Like kids, you're a kid. But the 2 times that I actually stepped up and took action on it, that abuse stopped. And so what happened for me in that moment was I realized that, oh my God, if I would have just said something sooner, they would have suffered less. And so there's this air of guilt that I'm working through it, but it's that drives me to say, "Ooh, I got to do something." And if I don't take action on it, very similar to Felipe, it eats at me. And it does, like when I don't take action on things and I see an opportunity that I could have served better or minimized somebody's pain in some way or help them experience joy to a greater degree, it bugs the hell out of me because I knew I could have done something about it in some small way. I'm not talking about big giant stuff, just saying good morning to somebody or asking, hey, how are you? So that's where it comes from for me. And I got to be in action mode. Yes, I do a lot of stuff to pause and think and process. But when there's an idea, baby, we gotta go.
But we also realized and experienced this writing a book that that we need those actions to be able to keep it moving. But there were also times because of that process and because sometimes it was out of your control and there were things that needed to happen that were not on your plate. Like it completely got you not like you were just frustrated because it something stopped or it paused or it was going super slow because there were other people that were having to do things. and like you had to take a step and like back up and like reassess?
I had to find other places in my life to take action on because it eats at me. I got to get it. I got to do something with it. And so Justin says self-injurious behavior for him means blaming himself for every single thing wrong, things that are out of your control, that happens to the point where it affects your well-being. Jennifer?
Wow.
Any
I really don't want to comment on this at all. Um, okay. You and I talked about this, and I really don't want to talk about it, which makes me super uncomfortable, which probably means I need to talk about it. So, yes, Justin, I completely agree. And I think the control piece is a huge thing, and not just for me. I think in our industry, it doesn't matter your skin color, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter really your profession and what you're doing. I think there's always times that we feel out of control, or we feel like we don't have control of the situation. And I think it's making me think more now about earlier when I was younger, college, and after that, made some decisions, for myself, regarding food and eating, and, what was important, what wasn't, and what I could control. And I think I made like decisions to not make good food choices, and maybe just not make food choices at all, and choose not to eat and not to do things because I could control that. And that's weird. And people are like, when people have eating disorders or they have issues with food, they just want to lose weight. They're trying to look better. It had nothing to do with that. And I think we go there and we think about those things because that's what we see. That's the visual of, someone is struggling and they're on a diet, or they're making choices because they want to look better. And I'm going to tell you 100% of the time, choices that I made early on that, there's still residue now that I have to kind of consciously think about, is it had nothing to do with physical appearance. It had to do with control. And like, what is that? Because when everything around you is crazy chaos, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to impact something or change something. You still have complete control over yourself. And for me, it was bad decisions, but it was decisions I was making that, to not eat or to do things when it came to food, because I could control that. And I felt empowered to be able to do something when I felt helpless. That at that moment I could make a choice and a decision to where, okay, that was, I could do that. I can do that. And I was able to do that with everything else crazy around me. And that it wasn't the right thing. And it was one of those things, but it allowed me to feel something that then later on, when I was feeling helpless, that my brain went, oh, well, you can still control something. You can still have power. And that to me is a tiny thing that, and it's one, decision, one disorder, something that I chose. And there's tons of them out there, whether it's drinking or alcohol or drugs or, infidelity. There's a lot of things out there that you can make decisions to have some semblance of control, but they're bad decisions. And in the end, it doesn't fix anything. I saw a quote on LinkedIn, maybe even yesterday. It says, I'm trying to not lose it right now. You can't defeat the demons if you enjoy their company. I mean, and again, I'm still not living in that, but it's always there, and it's always something. And you talk about that even with your sobriety and things like that. It doesn't, because you're sober doesn't mean it's not there. It doesn't mean it just all of a sudden these demons have just left the building. And you have to make those conscious decisions to be able to, you cannot defeat the demons if you enjoy their company. And that's a conscious choice. Okay, you can go now.
That's real. So Ian says, thanks for being vulnerable. And yes, Jen, thank you. I mean, one of the takeaways that I got as you were speaking was it is easy to assume that that behavior is a matter of vanity, and in actuality it was you suffering through something and exerting control because you were swimming in chaos and you had to have some semblance of control. And so what do? You put it on your intake, whatever you're eating. And you're not the only one out there, right? There's a ton of people out there suffering. And Jen, thank you for sharing that, because hopefully it'll breathe some courage into somebody else to recognize you're not alone. They're not alone. And we can get through this together. Mr. Allen says, I'm constantly blown away at how radically open, honest, and vulnerably Jen and Jesse choose to show up. Thank you, Allen. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We're trying to tamp it down a little bit. So let's pick up the energy, give Jennifer some breathing room. We got Bruce Gambles out there, says, coming in from Queens. He's a little late. SRI, baby, you're here. You know, if we were on the job site and you showed up with tacos or donuts, you wouldn't be the person that's late. You'd be the person that brought breakfast.
Exactly.
And then we got Anson Green. It says he became a journeyman member last week. Anson Green, thank you for your support, man. Been knowing him for a few years now, and he's been extremely helpful to the community and to me. And then Miss Janet, she's coming in from Chicago. She's got some coffee and sunshiny smiles up in Chicago. I hope you're just visiting, because I want to come hang out with you here in San Antonio again, sister. All right. You ready to go back? Let's go back into the depth.
Yes.
Mr. Ian Smith, he says, this is an interesting topic. In the world of safety, he ponders what drives individuals to make the choices that they do. When he looks inward to some of his own behaviors, he realizes that it justify or rationalize why. What he might be saying or doing, knowing, but it doesn't align with what I know is the right thing to do. So, I mean, what I'm taking from that is there's a level of awareness of what should be done, what the optimal decision is, but we still make those decisions, right? The decisions that don't serve us to the highest degree. And similar to what you shared, we have there's stuff going on. And so to witness it and cast judgment, I think here's the thing, is it's way easier for me when I don't understand something to judge it than it is for me to work on understanding it. And maybe that's what I'm taking from Ian's comment is he's a safety professional, big time, huge responsibility, whole central United States. And it's very easy to judge, why are these men and women out there making these decisions that put themselves at risk? But we kind of do the same thing all the time. So what else is going on? And we've said it many times, is we've got to account for the whole person, for the whole human being, not just the moment, not just the break in the system that you're witnessing or experiencing, but what are the contributing factors? What could be going on with that individual that's making them punish themselves, or what's making them be nasty and ugly to other people?
Yes. So this is a great segue. One, it's heavy, but it's a little bit lighter than where we've been. To dig into, can we talk about melty?
Oh,
because I feel like it plays right into what you just said.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, so can you give a little background on because some people are joining, going, "What the heck are they talking about?" So, like Jesse, what is melty and where did it come from?
So melty is a medical term that I published.
Stop.
No, actually, Princess Kim introduced the concept to me of melty. And so melty is this state of mind that happens when we have emotional swings. Maybe not emotional swings, but like high peaks and low valleys in my emotional state put me in a melty condition, which means, and for me, it's and like where it's most insidious and most dangerous is when we're at a peak, when we're having wins and knocking stuff out or getting the accolades or, you know, whatever that is. I'm in this state of like being
Euphoria.
euphoria. Thank you. Flooded with emotions, and I don't give myself space to process those emotions. So what ends up happening is I end up making bad decisions, not like just fully unaware of it. Some examples of that I gave earlier about drinking and partying. Other examples is out there screwing around, right? Chasing women for whatever, or picking up, sending that midnight text, hey, how are you? Thinking of you, like that kind of dumb stuff, or responding to that midnight text. For those are things that I would normally not do. But when I'm in a melty state, I will do that. Or now what actually happens is I will order delicious, greasy, fatty food. And I actually went back and looked at my Uber Eats. Like, when am I ordering food? Like, okay, what happened before I ordered that? Because I'll go weeks without ordering the stuff. Like, oh, that was when the book released. Just so happened right after the book release, I ordered fried chicken and pizza and ribeye steaks, and like all in like 2 days. Like, that's not good.
It's only you, Jesse.
And I live alone. Exactly. The Uber people are like, man, this fool, who's he feeding? And so that's melty. The melty is when we're in this emotional state, we're flooded, euphoria, or even the stinky stuff. But the decisions we make is a result of that. Is that helpful, Miss Jen?
Yes, and I mean, and you, well, Princess Kim introduced it to us because we've had some really big highs with the book. And she was just like, you not only need to understand what melty is, because you're going to be in a place where you can make make some not maybe great decisions, but also I think for me, the bigger one was, y'all need to check each other. And she said it to us, and even Adam, because Adam was on the call, on there's going to be some really big like emotional things going on, and there's going to be some highs, and they're going to be living in this euphoria. Like, y'all have got to check on each other. And what are you doing? Don't go out. Don't make that decision. You don't need to go do that, because you're going to be in a place of low vulnerability, and you're going to do something because, oh, I'm celebrating, or I earned it, or it's okay because I had a win. So it's okay if I do this, or, you're training for a marathon. Yet you're ordering Uber Eats for 2. It's like, and you're making decisions because you're celebrating. Yes. And that's how our brain makes those connections. It's justifiable. It's justifiable because we just freaking launched a book. Like, in our minds, we're making those decisions. When we stop and look at it and take a breath, we're like, that's not a good decision. That doesn't make sense. But over time, they're learned behaviors.
Yes.
When you win, you get a cookie. When you win, it's like when you get there's things that when you win, you're getting things given to you. And so you're like, oh, I just had a win, so I deserve to do that for myself. And I mean, it can turn into bad things.
Yes, long-term implication. It's short-term decision making.
Right. So it's checking each other. Again, for me, it was we've had things, and 3 of us, you, Adam, and I, and like, well, hey, watch your melty today, because that just happened, and it's just one little thing to make you think, oh crap, I need to like be aware of it, not just knowing what it means, but having people like check you on it. I think that's huge.
Yeah. So what's the takeaway? The takeaway is exactly what you just said. We check each other. Adam will send us a text and say, hey guys, are y'all melty? Careful with the melty. I'll do the same thing to Jen. I'll pay attention, and something says like, ooh, this is a big week for her. Mind your melty. And so there's two really important things. There's one, we're taking that action to remind each other, like, hey, heads up, right? You're in a space, give yourself some time to process. And also we've invited each other in. So to the tribe out there, reach out to somebody and let them know, or maybe first examine yourself, and then invite people in to check on you. And I'm going to tell you right now, all of you are invited to check on me, because I need
I need help. I need help to help Jesse.
I need some help for real. And Cindy, like, straight up, right? She says self-injurious behavior to her is reacting emotionally without taking the consequences into consideration. Yes. Right? Like, it's boom, right now I'm gonna do it because whatever. And then there's just this huge domino effect of what can happen. Thank you, Cindy, for that one. Man, we got some good stuff.
I know you got lots of lots of really good.
So I'm gonna go on the other side of the coin with our good friend Mr. Buddy Brumley. He says trying to be the fixers. I love me some fixers. Trying to be the fixer at home led him to be the enabler. Beatdowns as a kid created a workaholic in adult life. Still working through at an advanced age. Thank you, buddy.
Yes.
What do you think about this fixer thing, Jen?
Well, okay, first of all, I'm not going to answer that, but I'm going to let you answer it because we've had multiple conversations about fixers, and I'm going to let you define what that is for you, but also where they come from and why does it happen, and then what it could result in. So I'm laying the groundwork for you. Go ahead.
So, the fixers, okay, I'm just going to say it, right? So, it's like, I guess the official term would be, it's like codependent behavior, codependent tendencies, where a person's self-worth is defined by them working, helping, supporting somebody else. And the way that manifests itself in my life is like, I'm damaged, like super damaged goods. The package is banged up, even inside things are a little cracked and broken and scratched up and scruffy. And so what that does is it signals to people, particularly women, that are looking for like a lifetime project to fix me. Like, ooh, I could go fix that boy. I'm gonna tell you right now, girl, there've been a bunch and it ain't getting fixed. The problem is it creates this crazy cycle that it took me a long time to actually see it in my life, because I was attracted to that because I love attention. And at first it feels like, oh, they really appreciate me and they value me and they're giving me all this attention. But any separation between me and the other person turned into like a big gigantic fight, because they're feeling abandoned, like I'm rejecting them. Like, no, I just need to breathe. And so they're trying to fix me. It's just all jazz. So when it comes to fixers, it's also kind of the way I would pick my accomplices, right? Because they were, what ended up happening, they were trying to help me. They really did believe they were trying to help me. But what ended up happening is they start walking on eggshells, tiptoeing around me, so they wouldn't trigger me going off and doing and abusing myself. And so it was just this whole thing, this whole ecosystem designed to keep me exactly where I was. And so fixers are dangerous for me. And here's the other crazy thing. I also happen to have fixer tendencies. And very much like Buddy, that's part of my upbringing. The conditions I was in as I was coming up as a kid, I learned, I mean, it's part of how I learned how to connect with people so quickly, because I was always looking to make sure, like, oh, is dad mad? Is mom mad? Who's mad? Okay, don't be mad. Be nice. Be funny. Be whatever, to like maintain some kind of level space where nobody would be fighting and screaming and yelling. So anyways, it's all of that. It's all of that, Jen. What do you think?
Well, and fix. I mean, you talk about it from a companionship position, but for me, growing up, single father, 3 younger brothers, oldest child, like my role very early, starting at 9 and 10 years old, was that caregiver and that person that was taking care of things. And so the fixer part of me is, again, trying to keep things level and not, having explosions and stuff like that, but also like taking care of it and then moving on. And so the enabling piece, and Buddy hit on it, is by me doing that, because that was learned behavior, is, being the person in charge while a single father's working 3 jobs and trying to take care of little brothers, is just take care of it and do it. It didn't help. It helped them as, very little children, but as adults, when we do that and we just take care of it because it's in our nature and it's what we have the ability to do, it doesn't help them. It doesn't help them for the next time. It doesn't help prepare them and get them to understand how then they can take ownership of it. And I still struggle as an, older sister with 3 younger brothers, that still like, where do I go? I can't help you. you're going to have to do this. I can guide you. I can give you some ideas. It's so easy because they're people we love.
Yes.
They're people that, I have 2 daughters and we talk about those a lot. And it's so easy now in a position raising them, and comparing that to being a child, having to kind of help raise my brothers, what am I asking them to do? What am I doing for them? What are they now doing at their age that when I was my age, I was doing a whole lot more. And so putting responsibilities on them and stuff, it's a conscientious thought all the time.
Yes. And so here's the question, Jen. While you were learning how to take care of everybody, how did you learn to take care of yourself?
I didn't. And so it goes back to, again, that control, just it's at the point where it's always outwards. It's always taking care of everybody else and not having that point of, am I taking care of myself? That was never a question because my role was defined by how I was taking care of everything else. And if I was checking those boxes and everyone else was good, I was good. And that's learned. Like that's absolutely learned. If I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing and everybody else is happy, then I'm good. And that was learned behavior.
Yes. And we've recently made a tweak on our morning calls. And I think the rest of the tribe, please do this, start doing this. We don't have a problem of achieving. We don't have an objective accomplishment problem. No. We have a self-care problem. Yes. Right. And I'm not saying that for everybody because I know there's slackers out there. My brother, Renee, if you're listening, you're a slacker, boy. Get up and do something. No, I'm just kidding. I love him. He's awesome. But more so, we spend all this time, and we've had this conversation me, you, and Adam. And it's usually sometime during the call, it's okay. So what are your plans for the week? What are your goals for today? What do you do? What's on your list? We don't need that. We know how to make things happen. And I think everybody on the call, for sure, everybody that's in the chat, make things happen.
Yes.
Big things for themselves, for their family, for their company. We have a self-care problem. Mm-hmm. So what we've started doing is asking, what are you going to do or how are you going to care for yourself between now and our next interaction? Yes. So that's man, I'm making that a habit. And every single time I've asked it, there's always at least one person that says, oh, damn, I have no answer. I've never even thought about that. Mm-hmm. So we can help other people by simply asking that question, right? We got to have that pattern interrupt so that we can take care of ourselves. What do you think, Jen?
I mean, you're right. That's, again, right. I'm an athlete. I was athlete, college, high school. I, played as an adult growing up, and that was part of, who I was. And then work sometimes takes priority. And so I got away from just physical activity and moving around, even though it brings me joy and I like it. And so almost a month ago, maybe it was exactly a month ago, you ask on a Friday call, like, what are you going to do this weekend for you, Jennifer? What are you going to do for self-care? And I said, you know what? I'm on vacation next week. I'm going to start getting up in the morning and walking. And I, I'm going to walk at least this much to get, just for me. Like it's not for anybody else, but just for me to just get moving and feeling like I'm, excited, just kind of some time to think, but also not really making it be about anybody else. And it's been a month and I've done it every day. And yes. Our conversations have been more, there's some things you get from, because I walk for an hour and then we get on a call and you're just like, it's like a lot, but I feel better about me, but it's a decision I'm making for me and I'm excited about it. But it also means this morning when I was going to get up and do it and my body was exhausted, I had to go, I'm going to do it later. It doesn't have to be right now. And so now I can not only have the routine, but also now I can go, okay, let's make the best choice for me today. So.
Yes. And so Dominic drops this on us very clear and concise way, right? SIB to him means actions and behaviors that are easy to get into and take more from you than they give. What do you think about that? Like you talked about your walk-in and saying, no, I need to sleep. when I first got into marathon running, it was 100% a shift in addiction for me. Right. It was right when I got sober the first time or the second time. I don't know which time it was. I started training for a marathon. And then my whole life was marathon, got to train, which again signals to people, wow, you look at him, he's doing great things. But my life was in shambles. Everything was a mess. And so there's this balance, right? Of there's a point where it doesn't serve you anymore. And it's not helping you grow, and it's not making me be the promise I'm intended to be. And when that starts happening, we got to say, time out, baby. And we got to have people around us to help question that. Mm-hmm. Thomas got two patterns for us. He says, one pattern of self-injury is a coping mechanism as a way to deal with overwhelming stress and not feeling in control. Jen's like, yep, word. And then he says another pattern in self-injury is cyclical. It's forming the habit, right? The self-injury itself relieves the stress for a moment. The relief forms this reinforcing cycle, right? We talked about this the other day, that feedback loop. We need to have the courage to see the patterns and take positive action. And it will not be comfortable. Absolutely. And again, I've got a therapist. She was able to point out my patterns that I didn't see for myself. We were just part of our conversation this week was I had just come back from my 3 or 4 days off at the yoga compound. And I was like, oh my God, I've taken time off the past 4 months in a row. 6 years ago, or 2 years ago, when I started working with her, or when she started working on me, and that doesn't make her a fixer. Like, I hired her. So that's different.
Well, that still doesn't make her a fixer, but still, you can hire people to fix things.
But that was the thing. She's like, what? Like, schedule a day off. I'm like, hell no. What do you mean a day off? I got things to do. And now here I am 4 months in a row where I've taken time off. Point being, I had patterns that I couldn't see. I had patterns that were not serving me, that I was not looking at. And when she and I started working on these things, man, it got like super, super uncomfortable. I remember she asked me the question, she's like, Jesse, do you really think the company's going to shut down if you take a day off? And I was like, oh, damn. Okay. Yeah, maybe there's some ego woven into that. So it's like totally uncomfortable. You ever feel any of that, Jen? Like, what if I'm not there, it ain't going to happen?
Well, I mean, I think we all do. And I don't always think it's an ego thing. I think it's just because of our drive and our, like, what we're trying to accomplish and the things we're doing to be able to just shut that down and go, I can be doing nothing, or I can be resting, and everything else is still going to be happening. Like, that's just not how our brain works. And so it's like we have to like intentionally, like make ourselves do something that is uncomfortable. And so as you were talking, two things came to mind to think about, because we're talking about self-injurious behavior. We're talking about, I think, Cindy, switching one addiction to another. We're talking about how, I think Amy, again, I'm calling them out. You're not pulling them up, but that's okay. Amy's talking about you need to be willing to have nothing versus a bad something. And so two things for me. Yeah. So one is those uncommunicated expectations and how that plays into it. And then the other is crucial conversations. And I want you to hit on uncommunicated expectations sometimes and how that plays into it, and then I'll hit on crucial conversations and the importance of, it's really hard to do it by yourself.
Yes.
To get out of it. So can maybe talk about uncommunicated expectations and how that plays into some of our self-injurious behaviors.
Yeah. So two things. I'm going to start with one that's a little off in left field, but there's been a lot of conversation about buy-in and ownership and this sort of thing, accountability. Mm-hmm. And there is no accountability without my commitment. If you haven't secured a commitment, I am not accountable. You can pretend like you're holding me accountable by doing taking some type of punitive action. And really, I don't care, because I'm not breaking any commitment that I made. So securing the commitment is the way I, as the leader, create the conditions for accountability. Because once I've secured the commitment from somebody, they are accountable to themselves. And if they are not accountable to themselves, then guess what? Maybe they don't need to be on the team. That's a whole separate thing. Anyways, so what does that have to do with uncommunicated expectations? It's a big chunk. Like, I have expectations. So one thing I know for sure is when I have expectations, if I'm ever dissatisfied or discontent, it's usually a result of an expectation that I had. So I think you have a quote, Jen, that I practice or repeat in my head, is like, give everything and expect nothing. Because if I expect nothing, right, when I don't have expectations, everything that I get, I am prepared to be grateful for.
Yes.
Right? Like, because it's a gift at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do have expectations of people,
Mm-hmm.
but if I don't communicate those expectations, I just start getting angrier and angrier and angrier, and this resentment builds up in me that I start like hating people. They're dead to me. I put them on like the dead to me list. We ain't talking, we ain't hanging out.
They don't even know why.
And I just hate them all of a sudden, right? And so a very simple example of one of the expectations that I just operate under, that not everybody operates under, is starting on time. Right? And when their definition of on time is different than mine, I make a judgment against them. Like, I will use the words like, oh, that person, they like to be late. I'm accusing them of enjoying to be late. And more so, I assume that they have no respect for me. And that's too far. Like, I've gone way too far if I didn't communicate the expectation that we will be starting at 8 a.m.
But isn't that learned behavior?
What's that?
Isn't that a learned behavior for you to just make assumptions based on somebody pissing you off or somebody making you mad?
Oh, totally.
It's a learned behavior, because it's just that. I mean, you're probably not the only person in the world that does that. But again, I don't want to take away from your story, but it happens in my house with my 11 and 13-year-old.
Yes.
Yes. Alex comes in tears because Bella hates her. Because Bella, she hates me. Why does she hate me? Why does she hate me? And then you ask her why. She's because I want to borrow one of her sweatshirts and she won't let me. And I'm like, let's have this conversation.
Yeah.
Does Bella know right now the importance of what the sweatshirt's for? Whatever it is, it's little kid stuff. But like, it's a learned behavior, and not having the conversation with Bella, not saying no, don't go talk to her. I don't want her to make her mad. Whatever. She's just going to be upset. Well, she's 11. What is that going to manifest into when she's 20?
Yep. And so that's the thing, is like, my expectations, my failure to communicate my expectations is an indicator that I'm living all up in my assumptions, right? I'm assuming that people don't care. I'm assuming they have no respect for me. I'm assuming that they like to be late. But I never said my expectation is that we start exactly on time all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates the opportunity to have a discussion and secure a commitment.
Yes.
But without communicating the expectation, I am setting myself up for all kinds of funkiness that all it's going to do is rob joy from me.
Yes.
That's my thought on expectations.
No, and you and I talk about this a lot, but it's just the importance of and it's a great segue, having those crucial conversations of, like, it's sometimes we have our self-imposed things and those self-injurious things and all that, and they never leave us. And then we are making judgment and assumptions, and we are angry and frustrated and mad. We never voiced it. And yet we can justify that behavior. And so segueing that into those crucial conversations is we can talk about self-injurious behavior. We can talk about all the things that we are dealing with and the choices we have to make and in our trauma that we've dealt with. Like those are all things that every single person that's on here is got something they're pulling from, or they're remembering. But it's so critical to have 1, 2, 3 tribe around you that listens and that you believe, cares, and you can trust and be vulnerable and be transparent, because as soon as it leaves you and you're able to have those crucial conversations, you're not in it alone. You're not in it by yourself. You're not trying to tackle the world with everything else you have going on. You have somebody else that's going to link arms with you. You have someone else that's going to take some of that burden off of you. You have someone that's going to ask some really hard questions sometimes, and it's going to make you think about things you've never thought about. But then all of a sudden you're making different choices that you never made before.
Yes. And it's a function of inviting people in, right?
Yes.
So another form of self-injurious behavior is isolation. And for me,
yes.
When I isolate, I'm steps away from putting on another one. I want to share Mr. Bruce. Mr. Bruce says, I call them self-inflicted wounds, and there are many reasons for it. Some of it is accidental, some are emotional, most are psychological. The first thing necessary to deal with the chronic before it becomes acute is self-reflection. And so absolutely, Bruce. And I know, Jen, you've been working on developing a practice of self-reflection, and you shared a little bit about it going on your walks and so forth. And so that's the question to the group is, how are you taking time to reflect? Sit down and just be in your own thoughts. If you're not there yet, what would it take to promise yourself 5 minutes a week, just for a week, 1 5-minute section for 7 days, to sit down and embrace your thoughts, understand what's bugging you or what all's going on in there. What do you think, Jen?
No, I think it's huge. And speaking from a specific example of this and me, and owning that you and I we started this conversation back in like November. Let me just be clear, in November. And it was like, you need to take some time. And we started with, drawing and writing and, just having your, alone time. And I mean, like, we went through so many things, and I just struggled and I failed and I struggled and I failed and I was not able to do it. And over time, you were just like, okay, we're going to make a commitment that you're going to do it for this day, for this amount of time. And again, we started so small because it kept being so overwhelming for me, and so much that I was overthinking the reflection time. Let me be clear. I was overthinking and trying to plan and coordinate the reflection time because of all the craziness in my life. And so we had to get it so small and so minimal to where it was an easy, okay, I can do that. And then we got wins, and then we got more wins. And then I'm like, oh, okay. Now I know what that feels like. Now we can do this, or we can make it longer, or we can do something different. But we had to get the win. And I know it sounds so simple, but we had to get the win for me to know what it felt like. Because if you telling me what it was going to do, and you telling me, asking me, what about this, whatever, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't. And you ask me still now, what are you doing? What does that mean to you? And my answer is, I don't know. Because I didn't know what it felt like. I didn't know what it meant for me. And so I had to get the win. Yep. And that's what your 5 minutes, in a week. Find the 5 minutes, devote the 5 minutes. And then at the end, what was that for you?
Yeah. How'd that feel? And can we do it again?
Yes.
And so Alan shares, Tom Bilyeu from Impact Theory often talks not about building credibility with others, but building credibility with yourself. Like, watch out on that one. You can only control your own behavior while holding firm boundaries for what you are willing to allow into your space. And like that little 5-minute thing is absolutely that, building some credibility with yourself. I can talk to people all day long about the value of taking time off and like I've been hearing it for decades. but it wasn't until I experienced the value.
Mm-hmm.
And people talk about it in terms of like, now I write an hour a day. I take 3 or 4 days off a month. I also have 2 days a week that I protect to minimize the amount of workload I'm putting in on those days. That's like an enormous thing. I got there over the past 15 years. Because 15 years ago, baby, I wasn't even eating lunch. I was sleeping 4 hours a night. Like I was living on caffeine, and I was a damn mess. So some of us are there. And so to get to taking monthly time off or journaling an hour every day, that's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get there overnight. Get some credibility with yourself. Make a commitment for 5 minutes. Do the 5 minutes. Celebrate the damn 5 minutes. And then figure it out, because that recovery time, that reflection time is different for right now. My assumption is it's different for everybody. And everybody has to discover what is or are the things that they do that is going to refill their cup. And also know that, I mean, from my experience, it changes.
Mm-hmm.
Like it totally transforms. It used to be, if I went deep sea fishing, that was like the most relaxing time space I could ever be in. And then over time, so I got to a point where I was driving to the coast to go deep sea fishing twice a month. And then all of a sudden the drive, packing and driving down 3 hours and being on the boat for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, it became burdensome for whatever reason. It was the same experience, but I just wasn't getting the same fulfillment from it. And so it changed, and it changed, and it changed. And I think as we grow as individuals, those things are going to change. So one is discover, go out there, experiment, give yourself some time and figure out what is it that is going to give you some semblance of peace.
Mm-hmm.
Do more of that. And if it starts changing, good.
Adjust. Right. Adjust. Well, I want to add, just because I know you and I ran across a post this week on LinkedIn, and it ties right to what Alan said on the boundaries piece, like holding firm boundaries for what you're willing to allow into your space. And so I believe you have a visual that.
I do. Yes. Thank you for that.
Because we ran across it on LinkedIn, and we wanted to make sure we gave credit to that. So
yes. Hopefully y'all can read that. But there's a way to set healthy boundaries at work, which are, I'm just going to say it. I think that's what we probably all struggle with, is having boundaries between us and our work. We've started a little conversation, or Kirby started a conversation around this quiet, silent quitting, or whatever this new fancy thing everybody's talking about. And then the opposing reaction for me, like inside, like, what do you mean you're going to leave early? Aren't you a team player? The answer is yes. And the real question is, which team are we talking about? Because if I'm going to be a team player on Team Jesse, he needs some time off. Like, he ain't beautiful just because. It takes some rest, right?
Yep.
My brother, I went to dinner at his house. Yes, it was his birthday. Normally, I wouldn't have done that because it wasn't scheduled. It wasn't planned. I got a text from mom. She said, hey, we're going to be at Renee's at 5:00. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll be there. And she's like, you're not mad? I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. I'm not mad. And so maintaining these boundaries. So there's a list up here.
Dr. Adiela Mead is on LinkedIn, and she's amazing, and she gives some great posts, great resources. So if you're not following her already, go find her on LinkedIn and follow her, because again, we pulled this from a post that she had, I believe it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Healthy boundaries at work, and it plays into everything we've talked about today about setting those boundaries to be able to work within a space that is not going to cause you harm.
Yep. And then we have a question from Yesenia to the group. So share your reflection process. She says, good morning from Belize. Watch out. She's on vacation hanging out with her. What's up, girl?
That's a good homework. That's a good homework question.
Yes. So what is a good reflection process? I guess. So what should the homework be, Jen? I put a bunch of links, the resource links, I put them in the chat. And I also need to put the after party link. So if you could start this conversation around reflection process.
Because we have like 1 minute to wrap up. So yes. So I think it would be great for the next 2 weeks. Yesenia, amazing question. What is your reflection process, and I want to I left good out because I know it's different for everybody, and so maybe on LinkedIn, if you can share that on the NoBS page, if you can tag NoBS with Jen and Jess, so that our tribe can kind of start seeing what other people are doing. Because again, I'm going to go back to those crucial conversations and sharing it outside of yourself. Not a brag. It's not, again, it's what are you doing that someone else can go, oh, I can do that, or, oh, I can't do that, but maybe I can do this. And we can start having those conversations and make it a little more, normal to do these things instead of, oh, you're doing that. And so.
Yes, absolutely. And so Yesenia, my reflection process is every day I block out an hour to sit down and write. And that means turn off all the stuff, turn off the phone, turn off the TV, turn it all off, and just sit down and write. Sometimes it's 3, 4, 5 pages of stuff. Sometimes it's half a page because I'm working through things in my head. But the outcome is like extreme clarity of what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and what I want to do next. It took some time to get there, but that's where I'm at right now. Yep. So final thought, Jennifer?
No, again, this conversation could go on. And when I appreciate all the love and the care and the compassion for the people here, even the people that didn't talk yet and didn't put comments in, we appreciate you. And we know this is a process. Jesse and I talk about it all the time, of people showing up, and then they get a little bit more comfortable and they start adding, and then we start seeing the conversations over, a whole nother conversation over there in the chat. And then also how they connect outside of this platform and be able to, on LinkedIn, follow each other and, really support each other. And so I just want to thank everybody, because for some of the stuff we share to help support this safe space for not just Jesse and I, but for everyone else that is sharing some really, hard things.
Yes, yes. And I'm going to close out by sharing the most insightful comment of the morning. Alan says, Jesse definitely do be getting his beauty sleep these days. Yeah, baby. So with that, love y'all. Be kind to yourself and share a smile with somebody. Yes. If you got some more time, you want to continue this conversation, the link to the after party is in the chat on all the socials, and the links to the resources are in the chat as well. So please be cool, and we'll talk at you next time. Peace.